as we're all trying to figure out ways to help during this pandemic, one thing that we can all do if we are seamstresses is sew masks for our first responders, for our family, for our friends. So what I've done is using Big Frog's direct-to-garment printer, I've printed out the template for a face mask, and it comes in 3 sizes, small, medium, large. What you'll notice though is it does not account for seam allowance. Now, these face masks are not medical grade, if you would, for protection, but they do allow for 3 key things. 1, it limits the spread of a virus from your mouth, from oral droplets, that kind of thing. It promotes social distancing and allows people to see you wearing that mask and then keep a distance. And the other thing is it allows for something I forgot at this time, but I'll remember in a minute. So at this time, what I'm going to show you is how to put together these masks and how easy and quickly it can be done. What I've done is I've taken a shirt that was a scrap shirt from our store, and I've printed the outline onto it. So I'm just going to take my fabric scissors, and if you don't have fabric scissors, then sharp scissors will do. And I'm giving myself about a little bit extra here out of this fabric, and that will account for my seam allowance. As a quilter, I usually go with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That allows, and that should be plenty here. Supplies wise, you'll need your sewing machine. You'll need either ribbon or strips of cloth for the ability to tie back your masks. So as I'm coming around, I'm almost done. The first step of this process will be to sew the long sides together, and that's going to actually be the center of your mask. And we'll use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And as with most sewing, you're going to sew right sides together. So this is going to be my front, and this is also a front. So sometimes you'll see it called good sides. I call it right sides. I think most people do. But so you want the right sides of fabric together, and you're going to match it up, and then you're going to sew the long side together. Okay, as we come over to our sewing machine, a few things to keep in mind. There are 2 pieces that I've already cut out. You can see them here. The reason is there's an outer layer and an inner layer. And the other point of masks is it does limit it provides a barrier for your hands to touching your face. So that avoids contamination for yourself as well. So as we come to our sewing machine, I have my walking foot on, and you'll see there's a 1/4 inch mark right here, and that's kind of where I'm going to try and keep my fabric line for this hem. Now this is just one straight line that we're going to sew, and for those of you who might be new to sewing, remember you want to start a little bit away from the needle, and you're always going to hold your bobbin and thread, bobbin and needle thread, so that it doesn't pull out in the first 2 stitches. So here we go. And as you can see, I'm just following this line right here to the edge of my fabric, and that'll give me a nice 1/4 inch seam. And we're just gonna go along with the curve. And because it's curved, it's going to scrunch a little here and there, but that's okay. And if it's not a perfect 1/4 inch, it just doesn't matter. And we're going to sew right off. And then all sewing machines like to have their needle all the way up before you come out and then cut it. At this point, I'm going to sew the other one, and then we'll come back to the iron here in a minute. Okay, so what we have now are an inner mask, the inner layer and the outer layer here. I have 2 strips of fabric width that's 36 in length. These were pre-cut and pinked for me. I'm going to use these as the ties for the mask, and you can see here where to put the ties. I'm going to put it in half and then cut it, and that will be one side. And then the other. You can use whatever you have on hand. If you have ribbon or extra fabric or even the t-shirt that we just cut, you can use that as well. This is not an exact science by any means. So what I'm going to do now is take this, I'm going to put it right sides together against the lining. I'm going to have just a hair stick out. Since these are the larger ones on that blue line, I'm going to put it there. And you can take your pins. Well, as we come along, we'll pin the whole thing together. So we'll do that here. And then I'm going to bunch this in the middle. I don't want it to catch in my seam allowance. And I'll take this next one here, oops, here, put it in the middle, and here. Now we're ready to go ahead and take the top layer. Oops, that moved. And we're going to put right sides together, sound familiar, and match this up and pin it. So just take that, kind of pin it in place. Come over here, I'm going to pin this side. Totally just stuck myself, so there's that. It's a lot of fun. Okay, we've got those pinned. Now, as you probably imagined, we are going to sew around the outside, and we're going to leave about an inch or 2 open so that we can turn this right side out, which then we will sew the closure together after that. So where you start is important. You don't want to start on the sides because that's where your tie downs are. You do want to start somewhere maybe down here where it won't be too irritating for the person who has just that extra little seam here. So we will start here, end here, leave this open. We'll come over to our sewing machine again, and right here, if you recall, we're going to start just off the fabric because we want to catch everything here, and we're going to do another 1/4 inch seam, and we just start here. Okay, I stopped for a moment, but I'm back on. So what we're going to do is, since we've started down on the bottom instead of the top, I'm going to stop it right here. I'm going to reverse, and I'm going to do kind of really get this stitch strong. And you see I've reversed, and now I stop. I'm going to pull this all the way up, so my needle's all the way up. Now, here's where we're going to put that kind of 2 inches in. So I'm going to go here to about the edge so that I just lifted up the fabric, moved it, and placed it back down. Now, what we're going to do is sew a few stitches, back stitch to really lock it in, and then sew the rest. What that will allow us to do is to make sure that we can turn this right side out, if you will. So here I go over that heavy seam, and now with my needle down, I'm going to reverse, kind of make this a little stronger. And the reason why you want to make it stronger here is when you turn the fabric right side out, it does pull on those stitches, and you want your stitches to be nice and strong and stay for you. So as I come around this corner, I leave my needle down, and I see my pin here, and I'm going to remove it. I turn this around, and now we're going to catch that tie down that we inserted. If we wanted to make that extra strong, we could actually go over those ties a few times. But I think for our purpose, we're okay here. Okay, I'm coming around. See, this is pulled a little, so I'm going to re-straighten it. And here we go. And we're coming down to the last. And we're sewing over that last bit of fabric. Now, right here, I also want to do a few reverse stitches just to lock it in. So now what I'm going to do is pull this out, cut this off. We're going to cut our start stitch off. And then one thing we want to look at is we want to make sure here we have captured all the fabric in our sewing. Here's where we're open, and we're going to go ahead and cut this. So you see how we did that little jump, and we know this is where we are open and we expected that pull. So now we are going to turn the fabric right side out. We'll gently pull it here. And I have a fancy chopstick that is not in any way the appropriate seamstress tool, but I like it. And we'll come down here around this corner, and this just pokes your corners out if you have a little chopstick. And now we have a mask that we can tie. Not to forget about the bottom, which I just kind of did. We're going to tuck in the seam a little, and on the inside, we'll just, well, we need to do We want to make sure it's tucked in nicely. And we're going to go the full way around our mask so that it's not so, what's the word, airy, I guess. Oh, forgot to clip this. There we go. Alright, now here we go. Again, don't let perfect get in the way of good. As I think all seamstresses and hobbyists have to know. So we're just going to start out here, come along, and this will give our mask also a finished look by hemming this in. It does get a little bulky in the center. Now come around these corners. And that's it. So while this runs through our country and all other countries, I think we can each do our part and help create face masks.